Have you ever felt like no one sees you? Like you're invisible even to yourself? Not because you're hiding, but because there's nothing to see. Just emptiness. No success. No recognition. No confidence. Just a sinking feeling that you're starting from nothing, and maybe you are. But here's the truth. Zero is not your enemy. It's just your starting point. You see, every person who ever built something great started where you are right now. Broke, lost, confused, doubting everything, especially themselves. They started at zero. And right now, you're standing at the most powerful place you'll ever be. But it doesn't feel that way, does it? It feels cold. It feels lonely. You scroll past highlight reels on your phone, watching people win while you fight just to get out of bed. You hear people say, "Gets better," but no one tells you how. You're stuck at zero, and it hurts. You feel behind. Everyone's moving faster, doing more, becoming more. And here you are trying to convince yourself you still matter, that your story isn't over. But listen, zero is not the end. It's the beginning. And beginnings are messy. We're taught to chase success, but no one prepares us for the silence before the win. No one talks about the days when nothing makes sense, when effort feels wasted, when your own mind turns against you, when you try and fail again and again. That's the reality of starting from zero. But it's also your greatest weapon, because when you have nothing, you've got nothing to lose. And that makes you dangerous. See, most people stay stuck because they're scared to start at the bottom. But you're already there. And that means you're already ahead of everyone too afraid to begin. From zero, you get to build real strength. Not the kind people fake online, but the kind that comes from being knocked down and choosing to stand back up. The kind that's earned, not gifted. At zero, you learn resilience, you learn patience. You learn what it means to be hungry for change. And that hunger, that's the first spark of greatness. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's not about who you know. It's about who refuses to stay down. And if you're watching this, something inside you refuses to quit. Maybe you feel tired. Maybe you're scared. But deep down, there's a fire, even if it's just a flicker, that says, "I'm not done yet." Hold on to that. That flicker is everything. Because when you've been overlooked, underestimated, and counted out, you have two choices: stay silent or rise louder than ever. People don't respect pain until they've lived through it. And when you rise from zero, you earn a kind of power that no one can take from you, because you built it from the ground up. And yes, it's going to be hard. You'll have to show up on days when nothing around you changes. You'll have to believe when there's no proof. You'll have to keep pushing with no applause, no likes, no spotlight. But that's what makes this journey so powerful, because when you do rise, and you will, no one can say it was luck. They'll know it was built through sweat, tears, and quiet days of never giving up. So if you feel like you're at zero right now, understand this: you are exactly where your story begins. And if you stick with this video, if you stay with this message until the end, you'll discover exactly what it takes to go from invisible to unstoppable, from broken to unbreakable, from zero to hero. Because your past doesn't define you, your present doesn't limit you. But your decision today, that changes everything. Keep watching. Your rise starts now. You wake up, and it feels like a weight is sitting on your chest. Not a physical one, something heavier. A silent pressure no one around you understands. You smile. You act like everything's fine. But inside, you're drowning in thoughts that don't stop. Doubts that whisper you're not good enough. Regrets that replay on loop. And fears that tomorrow might look just like today. This is the part of the journey no one talks about, the quiet suffering, the invisible battle, the war inside your mind. People see your face, they hear your words, but they don't see the storm inside. They don't see the nights you cry quietly, the mornings where getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. They don't see you staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., questioning your entire life. No applause for these moments. No recognition, no help, just you versus you, and that's the hardest fight you'll ever face. Because when the enemy is inside your head, you can't run. You can't hide. You can't block it out with noise or distract yourself forever. Eventually, it catches up. And when it does, it whispers the same question over and over. What if you're not enough? But listen carefully. That voice, that's not the truth. That's the fear. And fear is a liar. It tells you to quit before you begin. It tells you failure defines you. It tells you the pain won't end. But here's what fear doesn't want you to know. You've survived every battle so far. You're still here, breathing, standing, trying even on the days when no one noticed. And that means something. Because strength isn't built in public. It's built in the silence. It's built in the moments when you want to give up but don't. It's built in those battles no one sees, the ones that leave no scars, but shape everything about you. People admire strength, but they don't understand what it costs. They don't see the mental breakdowns in the shower, the panic attacks in the car, the moments where you fake a smile just so people don't ask questions. But that's what makes your journey real, because when you rise, and you will, it won't be because life suddenly got easy. It'll be because you fought through the hardest parts and never let them break you. You see, most people give up because they think they're the only ones struggling. They look around and see everyone winning, laughing, shining. But what they don't realize is this: everyone's fighting something. The strongest ones just fight quietly, and maybe that's you. Maybe you're carrying pain no one knows about. Maybe you're tired of pretending, tired of holding it all together, tired of wearing a mask just to survive the day. But listen, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to keep going. Because the truth is, it's not the loud victories that define you. It's the quiet ones. The day you got out of bed when you didn't want to. The moment you chose hope instead of despair. The night you talked yourself out of giving up. That's strength. That's courage. That's you. No one will give you a trophy for these battles. But they matter more than you know. Because they're building something inside you, something unshakable. And one day, you'll look back on this version of yourself, the broken, tired, silent warrior, and you'll realize that was the turning point. Not when the world clapped for you, but when you decided to keep fighting, even when no one was watching. So don't underestimate what you're doing right now. Don't dismiss the fight because no one sees it. These battles are shaping the hero inside you. One thought, one choice, one breath at a time. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to keep going. You are not weak for struggling. You are strong for surviving. And even in silence, you are rising. You weren't born weak. You weren't born broken. You were born unfinished. And that's what people forget. No one comes into this world already powerful, already fearless, already great. They grow into it. Through pain, through mistakes, through seasons of failure and darkness. Look at anyone who has achieved something extraordinary. They didn't start at the top. They started where you are now, full of questions, fears, and doubts. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have it all mapped out. They just took one step, then another, then another. That's it. But we don't see that part of the journey, do we? We only see the result, the stage, the success, the spotlight. And that's where the lie begins. Because somewhere along the way, the world convinced us that great people are just born different. But the truth, they're not born great. They're just willing to begin, willing to be bad at something before they're good, willing to look foolish, willing to fail, willing to keep going when it hurts. Every legend has a first chapter. Every hero has a messy start. Every winner once stood where you're standing now, full of uncertainty, wondering if they'd ever make it. So don't shame your beginning. Don't look down on your day one. This is where the foundation is built. You don't have to be perfect to make progress. You don't need all the answers to take the first step. You just need the courage to move, even when it's slow, even when it's awkward, even when it's hard. Because growth never feels good when it's real. It stretches you. It breaks what's weak inside you. It exposes your insecurities, your excuses, your fears. But that's the process. That's how transformation happens. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. That's like judging a seed for not being a tree. The greatness is already inside you, but it takes time to grow. Time and pressure and fire. You might think you're far behind, but you're not. You're exactly where you need to be at the beginning. The place where most people quit before they ever see what they're capable of. And maybe you've tried before. Maybe you've started and stopped 100 times. But hear this, just because you failed doesn't mean you're finished. You don't fail when you fall. You fail when you stop getting up. Everyone starts somewhere. Some start with less. Some start with more. But what matters most is this. Do you keep going when it's not easy? Do you stay in the fight when no one is cheering for you yet? Because the people who rise, the people who change their lives, they're not the ones with the best circumstances. They're the ones who refuse to quit. They don't let shame stop them. They don't let fear paralyze them. They don't wait for permission or the perfect moment. They just begin. Broken, unready, imperfect, but committed. And that's what you need right now. Not a plan, not a guarantee, not even confidence. Just commitment. Commit to your growth. Commit to your future. Commit to taking the next small, quiet step, no matter how scared you are. That's how heroes are made. Not in crowds, not in comfort, but in the quiet decision to begin and to keep going. So when you feel like you're not enough, remember, this is where everyone starts. They start afraid, they start unsure, they start in silence, but they start. And so will you. They gave you a name before you ever knew who you were. Not smart enough. Too lazy. Too quiet. Too much. Not like the others. They told you what you couldn't do, what you were capable of, what you'd never become, and maybe you believed them because they said it with certainty. But here's what no one told you. Those labels were never yours to carry. They were projections, opinions, assumptions made by people who couldn't see your future because they were stuck in their past. They saw your struggles and mistook them for your ceiling. They saw your pain and mistook it for weakness. They saw your silence and mistook it for surrender. But they were wrong, because you are not what they called you. You are not what they decided you'd be. You are not the box they put you in. You are more. And deep down, you've always known that. But when you hear the same words over and over, they start to sink in. They shape how you walk, how you think, how you see yourself, until one day you wake up and wonder, maybe they were right. Maybe you are average. Maybe you will stay stuck. Maybe you're just another person with another story that never changes. But that's the danger of living by someone else's definition. You forget you have the power to rewrite your own. Every label you've been given can be removed. Every lie you've believed can be broken. Every limit they placed on you can be shattered. Because what society labels as failure is often just the start of greatness. What they call weird is often just uniqueness misunderstood. What they label impossible is often just something they've never done. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand out, to break molds, not live inside them. But standing out is uncomfortable. It means being misunderstood, judged, rejected. And that's why most people stay small, because small feels safe. But small also suffocates the truth of who you really are. You don't have to shrink to make others comfortable. You don't have to wear labels that don't belong to you. You don't have to live down to their expectations. Let them doubt you. Let them talk. Let them label you. And then let your actions prove them wrong. Because no label can hold back someone who decides to rise. Not one. History is full of people who were counted out. Failures, too different. The never gonna make it types. And yet they rose. Not because they were given permission, but because they refused to let small minds define their big future. You're not here to be defined. You're here to redefine what's possible. And maybe the world still can't see who you are becoming. That's okay. They don't need to see it yet. You do. You need to look in the mirror and stop repeating what they said. You need to stop carrying names that don't belong to you. And you need to start speaking life into your own reflection. Say it to yourself, even if you don't fully believe it yet. I am not my past. I am not my mistakes. I am becoming something greater. Say it until the old labels lose their grip. Say it until your own voice becomes louder than the world's noise. Because identity is not given. It's chosen, and you get to choose now. Choose to believe in your potential. Choose to rise above opinions. Choose to be defined by your actions, not their assumptions. Let this be the moment you take back your name. Let this be the moment the labels fall. You're not broken, you're building. You're not lost, you're becoming. You're not just average. You're undeniable once you commit, and the ones who labeled you, they'll watch in silence when you become everything they said you couldn't. Because the loudest response isn't anger, it's progress, and you're already on your way. There comes a moment when everything changes, not because the world shifts, not because luck finds you, not because someone rescues you, but because you decide. One decision, that's all it takes. Not 100 steps, not a 5-year plan, just one decision to no longer stay where you are, to stop living under limits you didn't choose, to stop playing a role you've outgrown, to stop settling for a life that doesn't set your soul on fire. That's where power begins. Not in having it all figured out, but in making the first real choice. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. A decision that says, I'm done waiting. A decision that says, I'm done shrinking. A decision that says, I don't care what they said. I know who I'm becoming. Most people never make that choice. They float, they drift, they wish. They think time will change them. That someday, maybe, motivation will magically appear. But it never does, because motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. And action starts with a single, clear, powerful decision. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need the approval of others. You don't even need confidence right now. You just need to decide. I'm going forward, no matter what. One decision can flip your whole story. One moment where you say, I'm not staying broken. One moment where you say, I'm not the same person I was yesterday. One moment where you stop hoping and start building. That's the power people overlook. They think change is some massive event. But real transformation, it starts quietly, in a room where no one's watching, in a heart that finally says, enough doubting, enough hiding. Right now, you're one decision away from momentum, one decision away from turning pain into power, one decision away from proving that your past does not own your future. And yes, it's scary, because choosing change means choosing the unknown, choosing risk, choosing effort, choosing to walk a path that won't always be easy. But what's scarier? Staying exactly where you are. Waking up a year from now with the same regrets, the same excuses, the same what-ifs. You weren't born to repeat days. You weren't born to wish for more. You were built to choose more, to demand more. But only if you decide to. That decision might look small on the outside. Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's cutting off a toxic voice. Maybe it's starting that thing you've been putting off for years. But don't underestimate what it unlocks. Because the moment you decide, your mind begins to change. Your energy shifts, your focus sharpens, your steps become stronger, and slowly the world starts to respond. Opportunities notice you, discipline meets you. Your identity starts to catch up with the future you've been dreaming about. But none of that happens without the choice. The choice to stop being a victim. The choice to stop being average. The choice to stop surviving and start living on purpose. So many people wait for the right time, but the right time never comes. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. Right now is your moment. The moment you choose to stop letting fear write your story. The moment you choose to stop explaining your pain and start using it. The moment you choose to take back control, not of the world, but of yourself. Because once you control your decisions, you control your direction. And once you control your direction, no one can stop you. So what will you choose? To keep waiting or to rise? To keep surviving or to finally live? To stay the same or to transform into who you were always meant to be? It doesn't take a miracle. It doesn't take motivation. It takes one decision, and you already know what that is. Make it. Now, you made the decision. The switch flipped. You said, no more. And for a moment you felt unstoppable, but then the feeling faded. The fire you had yesterday, it didn't show up today. And now the voice inside your head says, see, you're not built for this. See, you can't stay consistent. But here's what most people never understand. Motivation is a liar. It's loud one day and silent the next. It shows up when it wants and disappears when you need it most. You cannot build a powerful life waiting on a feeling that's never guaranteed. The truth is simple: motivation gets you started, But discipline is what keeps you going. Discipline shows up when motivation stays in bed. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It moves anyway. Discipline doesn't need excitement. It needs a reason. And that reason, it's your future. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Discipline says, doesn't matter. I made a promise. Think about it. Winners, high performers, heroes, they're not driven by motivation all the time. They're driven by something deeper, a system, a standard, a commitment to themselves. Because they know this one truth: your life is built in the days you don't feel like showing up. When it's cold, when it's hard, when no one is watching, that's where the transformation happens. Anyone can grind when it feels good. Anyone can be consistent when energy is high. But that's not what separates the average from the unstoppable. The real difference, it's who keeps showing up when there's no applause. And you can become that person. Not because you're special, but because you decide to build discipline like a muscle. You don't wait to feel ready. You create structure. You create habits. You build non-negotiables. You wake up and do what must be done, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are now. Discipline starts with something small. One task, one promise, one action you commit to daily, no matter how you feel. And every time you keep that promise, you stack a new layer of identity. You start becoming the version of you that doesn't rely on hype, just purpose. That's where real power is built, in repetition, in routine, in the quiet, boring, unglamorous moments of effort that nobody claps for. But here's the irony. Those boring moments, they build a life that looks anything but boring. Discipline gives you freedom, not the kind you chase on weekends, the kind that lasts, the kind that changes everything. Because when you become disciplined, you stop being a slave to your emotions. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop starting over every Monday. And that's when momentum kicks in. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. So when motivation fades, and it will, remind yourself this isn't about feelings. It's about a future worth fighting for. You don't train for the days you feel good. You train so you can keep going on the days you don't. You don't eat right, think sharp, and stay focused because it's fun. You do it because every disciplined choice is building a life that most people will never taste because they quit when it got uncomfortable. But not you, because you've decided. And when you decide, discipline becomes the tool, a weapon in your hand, a mindset in your soul, a force that says, no matter how I feel, I keep moving forward. And the more you build it, the less you'll need motivation at all. You'll become someone who doesn't need to feel it to do it. Someone who moves with purpose. Someone who doesn't just dream, but follows through. That's not a gift. That's a choice. And it's one you get to make again today. So don't wait for motivation to knock. It's inconsistent. It's soft. It's emotional. Be disciplined. Be dangerous. Be the person who shows up, especially when it's hard, because that's the path to becoming unstoppable. If discipline is the engine, then pain is the fuel. Not the kind that breaks you, but the kind that builds you. Because no growth comes without pain. No breakthrough comes without pressure. No transformation comes without discomfort. And that's the part no one warns you about. They tell you to chase your dreams, but they don't tell you what it costs. They tell you to believe in yourself, but they don't tell you how much it hurts when life keeps knocking you down. But if you're feeling that pain right now, physical, emotional, you're not doing something wrong, you're doing something right. That pain, it's the process. It's the stretching. It's the resistance required to become something greater than you were yesterday. Because nothing grows in comfort. Comfort is where your dreams go to die. Comfort is where you stay safe, predictable, small, but growth. Growth lives in the fire. Growth lives in the early mornings, in the long nights, in the tears no one sees. Growth lives in the days where you question everything and still keep going. The pain you're feeling now is proof you're not standing still anymore. It's proof that something inside you is fighting for more. And yes, it hurts, because letting go of your old self isn't easy. Breaking old habits, painful. Facing your fears, exhausting. Challenging your beliefs, uncomfortable. Choosing discipline over distraction day after day. It costs something. But ask yourself this: what's the cost of staying the same? What's the price of playing small for one more year? What does it cost to silence your potential because you're afraid to suffer? Pain is unavoidable, but suffering without purpose, that's a choice. So choose the pain that leads somewhere. Choose the pain that builds you. Choose the pain that forges you into someone unrecognizable in the best way. Think about your body. Muscles don't grow without tension. You don't get stronger lifting light things. You get stronger by lifting more than you think you can again and again. And your mind, your soul, they grow the same way. Through trials, through challenge, through the weight of life pressing down and your refusal to fold. Pain shows you what you're made of. It reveals the parts that still need work. It exposes the lies you've believed about your limits. And it asks you, will you break or will you break through? Most people run from pain. They numb it, hide from it, avoid it. But pain that's avoided only grows in the dark. Pain that's faced becomes power. That's what the strongest people in the world know. They don't love pain, but they respect it. They learn from it. They use it. They let it mold them into something sharper, tougher, more focused, because on the other side of pain is pride, not ego, not arrogance, but the quiet pride of knowing you earned your strength, that you didn't quit, that you didn't run, that you didn't break, you built. And that kind of pride doesn't fade. It becomes part of who you are, a foundation no one can take from you, because you paid for it in effort, in sweat, in scars that became stories. So if it hurts right now, don't retreat. Lean into it. Welcome it. Let it shape you. Because growth never feels like growth while it's happening. It feels like pain. But that pain is doing something. It's stripping away weakness. It's burning away excuses. It's showing you what you're truly capable of. And one day you'll look back on these hard days. The days you wanted to give up. The days you cried in silence. The days you showed up with a broken heart and tired eyes. And you'll realize those were the days you became who you are. So don't fear the pain. Don't run from the fire. Run through it. Because the version of you that's waiting on the other side is stronger, wiser, and more powerful than you've ever imagined. And the only way to meet them is to walk through the pain that's trying to stop you. Let it hurt. Let it shape you. Let it build the hero that the world hasn't seen yet.